the point I'm going to make today, and the point that we are going to dive into, is that to overcome these challenges, we have to have the right mindset. And you say, yeah, duh, that's pretty obvious. But I think we know it in principle, but we are actually not practicing it. And it's not always easy to practice. So I'm going to take you through this idea of being either above the line or below the line. When you are above the line, you effectively are in a state of collaboration, innovation, creation, flow. This is where you make your best decisions. This is where you collaborate in the most positive way with others. This is where you have an open mind and an open heart. So you're open to challenges, because we do have challenges, of course. And you can work with passion, and you can have compassion for others. You can empathize with others because you're able to do that from above the line. You also are able to remain objective and use your reason, so you don't go down a spiral of being overly emotional. You definitely use your emotions here, but they're more in the positive side of emotions, as I'll show you in a moment. You're able to remain objective, or relatively objective, because can we really ever be truly objective? I mean, we do see the world through our own eyes. You maintain a positive attitude. You're curious, engaging, proactive, empowered. Everything that you possibly would want is above the line. And the emotions that are associated with being above the line: joy, enthusiasm, feeling empowered, inspired, many other emotions that I don't have space for here. But there is, like, let's say, a scale. You can be completely in flow and joyful if you are really above the line. If you're just a little bit up above the line, you're fine. You feel confidently. You feel confident. You feel good. And the word safe comes in above the line, because you can only really feel joy and enthusiasm and create and innovate and collaborate if you are in a safe environment, if you feel safe in yourself. If you feel threatened, well, that's when we go below the line. Okay. So below the line is quite the mirror image. And really, it's a state of stress, any kind of stress, tension or contraction. So instead of being open, we contract, we close ourselves. And this happens at an emotional level, at a physiological level, and at a mental level, at a cognitive level as well. So because our whole body is one system, and so it's a contraction. And what we find is that you may become defensive or suspicious, impatient, and definitely reactive, right? Because reactive means that you have a knee-jerk reaction to something that somebody said. So you feel triggered, in other words. And everybody reacts differently. These words that I have here, they're all reflecting different states, different types of emotions, but they all belong below the line. Some people feel extremely stressed and overwhelmed. Well, if that happens, you're below the line. Some people feel, they get angry and defensive. You're still below the line. And if you're just a little bit below the line, you might feel bored or frustrated. But if you're really below the line, you could be furious or completely overwhelmed. So I think it's easy to see now why our leadership challenges need to be addressed from a place of being above the line. So the importance of this slide is for you to recognize when you are below the line and when you are above the line. Don't make it wrong if you go below the line. I mean, it could happen several times during a meeting. It could happen certainly several times during a day. Last week, I was lecturing at Westminster University, and I went through this. And one of the students said, yeah, I think worst case, I've been below the line for years, right? That's quite extreme. I don't know what that was. I don't know if that was a prolonged depression or what that was, but we can spend long periods of time below the line, and it's not great for ourselves. It's not great for our working environment. So the sooner we can recognize it, the sooner we can do something about it. I want to mention what happens in the brain, because this is really connected to neuroscience. So very roughly, we have these different parts of the brain. And we are generalizing when we say that there are 3 parts of the brain. But the frontal lobe, which is here in the color of a pale orange, that's like the neocortex or the frontal cortex. This is where your logic sits, your reasoning sits. And this is really where you want to be. You want your attention to be in that part of the brain, or you want your resources to go to that part of the brain if you want to think creatively, you want to collaborate, new ideas, you want to be open to whatever your client throws at you. That happens when you stay in that frontal part of your brain. But whenever something triggers you, whenever somebody says something that doesn't fit into your narrative, or when something unexpected happens, you get a change request at short notice, or you come back to your desk and you see 100 emails you need to go through, whoa, you go immediately, in a split second, you go into that middle part of your brain, the emotional part of your brain, also called the limbic system. And inside the limbic system, there is this amygdala. Some of you may have heard about the amygdala. And we also talk about an amygdala hijack. So basically, all of your attention goes to this shit, what is happening? Or I get angry, or I react. I want to write this angry email, or I just, we all respond differently, right? But that's essentially, you're going from one part of your brain to another part of your brain. And then you have the last part of your brain, which is a brain stem, and that's the true fight or flight. So if you don't pay attention, if you don't pay attention, or the parts of the we call that the reptilian part of your brain as well, this red part, the brainstem. And that's the part of your brain also that is completely automatic. So it helps regulate your heartbeat and your breathing. And if you're really frightened or angry, it will activate as well. So when you are below the line because something has triggered you, you feel angry or annoyed at something at work, or worried about something at work, worried about your project, or worried about a team member, or worried about whether you can get through your tasks, that worrying sits in that limbic part of your brain. And what do you do? If you stay there, if you stay below the line, you either fight back, meaning you start an argument, you run away from it, meaning that you can't deal with it, you don't want to discuss it now, you stuff it somewhere else. Sometimes we freeze, we just don't know what to do. That's quite a dramatic stress response. So that's the options, but we want you to recognize it so that you can come back to that expansive part of your brain as soon as possible. And I want you to think for a moment, what is it that causes you to go below the line? Perhaps as I've been speaking, you've already thought of some scenarios, but I have some further suggestions for you here. It could be team members who don't do what they said they would, or who you find hard to trust. How do you respond when that happens? Do you stay open and receptive, or do you kind of contract a little bit? It's normal to contract. I'm not making this wrong. I'm just making you aware of it. It could be stakeholders. Some stakeholders are very challenging. They ask you to deliver the unexpected. They ask you to deliver more than what you have agreed to. They ask you to incorporate new change requests without giving you extra time. Some stakeholders are very senior. They're busy. Maybe they don't give you their full attention. They don't listen. They don't come to the meetings they said they would. All sorts of challenges could happen with your stakeholders, whether they are internal or external. Could be any other situation. Maybe you have too much on your plate. You are overworked. You don't know how to get through through all of your work. Or, they do say that the biggest fear is the fear of presenting, which is not true. I think we have our fear of falling and our fear of physical pain and dying is probably bigger, but people say that one of our biggest fears, other than those primal ones, is the fear of presenting. So if you are asked to present a short notice, or you are asked to present something to senior people, maybe you go below the line. Maybe you worry about that. Maybe you feel uncomfortable. Sometimes we may feel intimidated in situations if we're having to interface with team members who are much more senior than us, who are subject matter experts, or we have to interface with a client or a stakeholder, a sponsor who is quite senior. Maybe we get nervous when that happens. So there are so many situations. I just want you to make a note for yourself. What are the situations that cause you to go below the line? I could simply be somebody in a meeting. You see that they're multitasking. They're not paying attention. And I want to say at this point that there can be certain personality patterns that actually make it a bit more, let's say, it means that we go below the line a little bit more frequently. For instance, if you are a perfectionist, if you have this idea that you need to do things perfectly, which I think many project managers have, then the chances of you landing below the line more often than not is actually quite high, because things are not perfect, right? So you might be confronted with this on a daily basis, feeling that you have to be in control. I also think many project managers have that pattern. So whenever you're not in control, or you get the sense that too much is happening and you might lose control, you're going to go below the line. Feel anxious, tense, fearful. So you have a high achiever pattern, very common again amongst project managers. So I want to prove myself. So no matter how well I deliver my projects, maybe it's never quite enough. So I have difficulty saying no because I want to prove myself. And that can be a pattern that makes me more anxious and go below the line. And I want to say to you that I can see parts of these patterns in myself as well. And back in the days when I was managing projects, I was less aware of it. But today I am, of course. And we have the helper pattern. Some people feel inherently bad if they don't help others. They feel compelled to looking after other people's needs before their own. And yeah, that can sometimes trigger you to go below the line. Or people who have a high level of anxiety, of course, that goes without saying. If some people just worry a lot. And we're not going to go into these patterns more at this point. It's just really for your information. If you see yourself in any of these patterns, do work with it. Do become aware. Work with a mentor or a coach, or journal, and just become aware of when these patterns are playing themselves out. It's not wrong, but if you free yourself from these patterns, I think you'll be a much more happy person and you'll be much better placed at work. But now I want to talk about how we then get above the line, because at the end of the day, we want to have results. We want to be good managers and leaders, and we want to be able to deal with these challenging situations from a place of being resourceful, right? And what I'm going to share with you now is a bit of mix of there's a lot of mindfulness in here, basically. Okay, first you've got to stop. If you notice that you're in a work situation, you are overly anxious, stressed, angry, worried, any of those emotions from below the line, just stop, just pause. Because what you need is just a moment. You only need a few seconds or a few minutes to turn this around. And what you do is that you recognize, I'm below the line. I feel angry right now. Or I'm below the line. I feel really stressed about my workload right now. Or I'm below the line. I feel nervous about going and seeing the stakeholder right now. Just recognize it. That in itself can help your nervous system calm down, because that's what's happening here. It's your nervous system being activated. And the more you can calm down your nervous system, the more you can go back from the middle part of your brain to the frontal part of your brain. If you try to make yourself wrong for it, say, oh no, here I am again, I'm nervous, or here I am again, I'm stressed again, or you're making it worse, then you actually going further below the line. So be kind to yourself. Yeah, here we are again. I feel uncomfortable. Name it. That's the first step. You can really use your breath, and I recommend this to everybody. the breath is the one of, if not the most powerful resource you have to calm down your nervous system. If you make your out breath longer than your in breath, you will automatically signal to your nervous system that you are safe and there's nothing to worry about, and you will calm down that amygdala in the middle part of your brain. And then you can stretch, move your body. If you just sit hunched over your computer, your state of mind might not change. So if you change the state of your body, if you get up, stretch, go for a walk, go and get a cup of tea, your mindset can shift as well. Now you're feeling a bit calmer, you can begin to actually notice what you're saying to yourself. If you are stressed about seeing a stakeholder, what are you saying to yourself? Are you saying, oh my God, my stakeholder is going to ask me difficult questions I can't answer? Or if you're going to present and you're worried about it, what are you saying to yourself? Are you saying, oh my God, they're going to make me look not experienced, or I worry that I won't have all the answers they expect me to have? Or what are you saying to yourself in situations where you feel overwhelmed? You're saying, oh my God, I can't get through my work. So your thoughts actually dictate your emotions. So if you keep saying to yourself, I can't cope, or if you keep saying to yourself, I'm so angry this team member didn't deliver, you're just going to keep feeling those emotions. So become aware of what you're saying to yourself, and perhaps you can choose another storyline, another thought. Maybe you can say to yourself, it's okay. It's okay. I'll figure it out. Or it's not comfortable to see the stakeholder because they have a tendency to speak down to me, but let me relax my body and breathe, and it's okay. What's the worst that can happen, So choose become aware of your thoughts. They can really help you to change your mindset, and whether you are above the line or below the line. As a general thing, it will also help you to appreciate your value and your strengths. Many people I coach, they have very low self-esteem. And if we have low self-esteem, it means that we're trying to prove ourselves more. It means that we have negative self-talk, and that will put you below the line. And again, when you're below the line, it's very hard to actually deal with the bigger challenges on a project. So begin to list your strengths. I've recently published a new book, How to Do the Inner Work, and that's actually all about what we're talking about now. Value who you are, get to your patterns, do the inner work. Don't blame other people, don't be a victim. Take the matters in your own hand. And when you can really recognize yourself for who you are and the value you bring, then it will help you to stay above the line. And you may say, yeah, I'm junior, I don't have much experience. But even if you're junior, you should know your value. If you're junior, we're not expecting you to know everything there is to know. So have compassion with yourself. And the last part here is that once you calm your nervous system down and you're back above the line, then you can have, and you should have, a calm and honest conversation, because leadership happens through conversation. And if you really need to take action with a team member who hasn't delivered, then you need to have that conversation. You need to do something, but you always take action from a place of above the line. If you take action whilst you are activated and overly emotional, you're not going to lead or manage in the best possible way. You're going to just react. You're gonna write an angry email. You're gonna snap at somebody. It's not a good idea. What is a good idea is that you calm yourself down, have these crucial conversations, and be clear about boundaries and expectations. That's what we need. We need clarity in project management. And before we move on, I just want to share this one breathing technique with you, because it's incredibly powerful. It is a way to harmonize the heart with the brain. And it is the breathing techniques that helps you to stay above the line. It is the breathing techniques that help you stay calm yet alert, because that's what we want. We want to be calm in our emotions, and we want to be alert in our mind, right? So what you can do right now, you can put your hand on your heart area. And you can begin to breathe a little slower and deeper than you normally do. And you can actually begin to imagine that your breath is flowing in and out directly from your heart. If it helps you, you can follow the animation on the screen. That's about 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. And if you don't find it helpful, you can just breathe a little slower and deeper than usual. And now I would like you to bring to mind a feeling of appreciation. Something you really appreciate, something that makes you feel good, something you're grateful for. Just bring that to mind right now as you breathe a little slower and deeper. And just notice how that feels. If you want to, you can share in the chat box. You can use this breathing technique anytime during the day, anytime you have a little break. You can go to the restroom and you can slow down your breathing. You can notice something you're grateful for. It will change your mindset. It will change your entire physiology. And it helps you to come back above the line and be resourceful. It's simple and powerful.
And we have a comment that it feels really refreshing and very nice.
Ah, wonderful. Sometimes we want everything to be complicated and we're looking for complicated solutions. But why not accept that our breath is always with us and it will serve us if we become aware of it and slow it down. Now, I said a moment ago that leadership happens through conversations, and that is so true. I want to share with you the 4 levels of communication. And the idea here is that once you are above the line, you probably need to have some conversations with people to deal with your challenges. And the pitfall here is that oftentimes we only talk at a surface level. We only speak from a place of above, so what we can see from the iceberg here, which is we talk about facts and figures and tasks and deliverables, which is probably 80–90% of our conversation is all about what needs to get delivered. The next level, and you probably do this a bit because you're project managers, you also focus on how something is done. So when is it going to get done? How much is it going to cost, right? So time, duration, when, what, where, why, that's okay. That's good too. However, the next level, we rarely talk about interactions and behavior. This is where we discuss what we expect from each other. We set ground rules. We talk about the elephant in the room. And I have some examples for you later that I will share with you. And feelings and emotions, we rarely talk about that. But this is important. If you want to get better at overcoming your leadership and project management challenges, you have to have deep conversations where you also address behavior and feelings. I'm going to give you some examples. So imagine that you feel really angry with a team member, but you don't talk to them directly, right? Because maybe you worry that you're going to upset them, or you worry that you just don't know how to deliver that message. So you just talk, you stay at the surface level, you stay at that content level. But what's perhaps really needed is a conversation at level 3, behaviors. Maybe you need to address their behavior. Maybe you need to say what needs to be said. Maybe you need to say to them, can we have a conversation about your work? Because I've noticed that oftentimes you don't deliver when I believe that we have an agreement to deliver. And that's very frustrating, but I don't want to jump to conclusion until I've heard your side of the story. So let's sit down and talk about what's really going on. That's an honest conversation. Talking about how I feel, how you feel, and what's really going on. So have that conversation from a place of being above the line. If you're below the line, you are going to probably be angry at them and make assumptions and say things that you wish you wouldn't say. So that's not a good idea. But this communication model you can actually use very proactively as well. I'm going to give you some examples of what to say at each level. So the first example here is stakeholder communication. So at level 1, you can say to your stakeholder, "Thank you for taking the time to meet and talk about the project. I'll explain what the main requirements are, and I'd love your feedback on whether you think we've missed anything out." Okay, we're talking about the topic, we're talking about requirements. Good, we need to do that. But let's deepen our conversation. "I'd like to discuss the governance of the project and your specific role. We would like you to sit on the steering committee. Is that okay?" Okay, that's about procedure. Good, we're clarifying. Let's go deeper in the conversation. Even deeper. Level 3. Can we agree that if you come across any issues, that you raise them with me first, personally? Then we can find a way to resolve it between us. And then you can ask a question from your side: how would you like me to escalate issues to you? So we're talking about how we're going to work together. We're talking about my expectations of you and your expectations of me. Okay, even deeper. I get the sense that you're frustrated about the level of input we require from you on this project. Is that right? Your support is really important to us. So what can we do to make this easier for you? If you have a sense that something isn't right, you have to address it. So this is an example of how you can use these 4 levels of communication. I'll give you another example. Performance review. You performed really well, Laura, and the quality of your work has been exceptionally high. I'm really impressed you took the PMP exam during our most busy period. Okay, that's fine. Let's go deeper. I'm also really happy with how well you manage your personal time. I know that you always write to-do lists before we leave the office in the evening, etc., etc. Okay, a bit about procedure. Now let's give feedback on interactions. One area where I feel there is room for improvement is your contribution to team meetings. I would like you to speak up more. What can we do to make it easier for you to contribute? Level, emotions. I feel that you sometimes hold back because you're afraid to be judged. You need to know that your input is valuable and that I see you as a long-term member of the team. So hopefully you get the idea here that effectively, to overcome our leadership challenges, we have to lead through conversation. We have to have real conversations, and you need to go deeper in your communication. And the last example here is during a project kickoff. It's exciting that we finally get to start this project. We have already talked about the deliverables. Now I'd like to explain the benefits and why this is such an important initiative. Level 2. Which collaborative tools would you like us to use? Level 3. I would like you all to write down one ground rule for how you would like us to work together. Okay, so you're asking them to identify any type of behavior that you feel is important for a well-functioning team. So essentially at level 3 here, you're asking people to set ground rules. How do you all feel about the project? Is there anything else we need to consider to make you fully motivated? I hope you get the gist here. And one tool I recommend that you all use is a team charter. The team charter is an excellent idea to take your teams to a deeper level. So the team charter helps you go to level 3, behaviors. What do we expect from each other? Right? You can see the answers here on the screen. And if you want to, you can download a template from my website. But the team charter really can help take your team to the next level. This is not a project charter where you describe everything that you're going to be delivering. This is about how we will work together as a team. And I'm mindful of time, so I might skip this next slide. or at least say to you that I've written a long blog post about the science of high-performing teams and what Google's research showed. And Google's research showed that the highest performing teams are those that have psychological safety, because it means that everybody in the team will contribute, not just a few people. So how can you create psychological safety? By saying to people, you don't have to be perfect, because if people think they have to be perfect, they may not come forward and contribute. So there's a really important piece there from Project Aristotle, and I encourage you to go and read the blog post from my site. I've also created a little video on it. And just say to you, create trust and psychological safety. That is the way forward to build high-performing teams and to overcome your challenges. Talk openly about behaviors and feelings, as we saw before. Encourage people to find their own answers. Don't feel that you have to be a superhero and you have to have all of the answers yourself. No, empower others with questions and empower others to find their own answers. Ask more questions. Empower others through delegation. Nobody likes to be micromanaged. And as we talked about, hold people to account. Sometimes you need these really challenging, honest, real conversation. If people have agreed to deliver something, you need to have a conversation with them if they're not delivering, or at least understand what's happening from their point of view. Help people thrive and avoid burnout. I have many webinars. I've talked just about stress and burnout. It is a real issue in today's world. And if you suffer from stress or burnout, please go and watch my other webinars on this topic. It's a very important topic. So I would say true heroism is not about stepping forward and exhausting yourself as you showcase how much you know and how much you can do. Don't be the superhero project manager. The superhero project manager has many expectations on themselves and others, which is good to have expectations, but it will often trigger you to go below the line more often than not. What you want and what true heroism is stepping back to create space for others, empower others, ask questions. That's what is really empowering for others. And you can only do that when you are above the line. Ask more questions. That's really, instead of telling others, that's really a key component of leadership. And again, it's a feature of leading from above the line. And here towards the end, before we open up for questions, I would encourage you to do the inner work, because when we drop below the line, there are emotional triggers. So please notice often during the day, whenever you drop below the line, name the emotion. Don't make yourself wrong for it. Notice what you're thinking. And then in your spare time, you can spend some time on self-inquiry. What is it that triggers me? Why do I get so angry when this or that person does this or that at work? Or how come I feel inferior whenever I see that person? It's really something that you can spend time inquiring about. You can journal about your observations. You can find a mentor, work with a coach, and of course, deepen your level of communication, as we talked about these 4 levels. And with that, we are opening up for questions. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can connect with me on YouTube. I have many videos there. And my 2 books are available in all places on Amazon. And I'm very proud to say that my most recent book I have recorded, it's on Audible as well.